Hello and welcome to 90.1 KBPK. I'm Ryan Osborne, joined by Joseph Pavlenko and Mark Pavlovich as we get set for kind of a new series here on 90.1 KBPK. Joe, we got to talk to some of the administrators here at the North Orange County Community College District, just kind of getting an overview on what's going on both campuses.
Yeah, and it was, I know me personally, I talked to the president over at Cypress College. I know you got somebody here at Fullerton, and it was really interesting to get their point of view on what's going on during COVID and all of this stuff, and how maybe things aren't as bad as everybody wants to think they are, how we're still finding ways to be able to succeed and teach students and do things like that during these crazy times we're in right now.
And Mark, when you look at it, like Joe was saying, this is a time where you can look at the uplifting aspects of life. It's not just about, what you see in the news or how this is affecting us. You look at the positive outlook that life has and that these two campuses have, and it's really significant to be able to talk to these administrators and hear what their aspect is.
Well, I think the thing that's interesting is my broadcast partner, Corey Nalen, when we would do Fullerton College football, especially in the Gene Murphy days, always looked at me and said, "You always think the glass is half full. They're down by 35 with 30 seconds to go." And I'd say, "Yeah, but they can still win." And that's the way we ought to be looking at things today. I mean, we can turn around and look at everything that's dismal and bleak and bad and say, but let's turn around and look at, we're here, Corey's here, beautiful Gabby Nalen is here. Things are good, and things will get better, because I believe in everybody I'm sitting with today, and with Mr. and Mrs. Nalen, and with the administrators at Fullerton College and at Cypress College. They're looking out for the benefit of the young people to get educations and their health and welfare, and you couldn't ask for anything more than that from the community colleges in California.
And in saying that, let's get right to Greg Scholes, president of Fullerton College. Welcome to 90.1 KBPK. I am Ryan Osborne, and I am joined by Dr. Greg Scholes, president of Fullerton College. And Dr. Scholes, you look at the times that we're in, current pandemic that's going on. I want to take it back towards the beginning, March, I believe, 12th or 13th. Looking at Fullerton College and just how quickly this entire campus rallied together and got themselves into a new format with the students and the instructors as well. It was really a positive impact that you saw in the community.
It sure was. Boy, that seems so long ago. But, at that time, we were gradually learning more and more about how COVID-19 was spreading in the United States and in California and in our region. And so we made the decision to temporarily suspend all classes, bring our teams together, and define and then execute what it would take to pivot the college in really a matter of 3 days. And you don't do that without exceptional faculty, classified staff, and managers, and that's what we have. And one memory I have is as teams were doing that work in that brief period where the college was closed and the students were awaiting a chance to come back, there were teams meeting to share best practices with each other and techniques in terms of online education in Canvas. And I remember seeing a group that was in the library in the professional learning area, peers talking to peers and saying, I've done that. Let me show you how you can make that part easier. And it was so great. It's just to see the Hornet family come together in really unique times.
I mean, when you speak of that, you look at how quickly everything had to kind of turn around. It was just, like you mentioned, just a matter of 3 days. When you look at how your office and also how the faculty and staff got together at Fullerton College to make sure that the students were learning, to make sure that the students had an opportunity to continue even after the classes were brought back once again, when you look at how quickly Fullerton College was able to really gather itself together and make sure that they gave that opportunity to the students as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible, is there anyone that you can really look at and say, you know what, if it wasn't for this person's help, if it wasn't for this person's effort on this specific project, we wouldn't be where we were?
I could narrow it to a person, and there's dozens and dozens of colleagues, but I'll give you one example. In the early days, even before we closed our campus, we pulled together a team of experts from across the college, representatives from campus safety, facilities and maintenance and operations, representatives from our classified bargaining unit, CSCA, our faculty senate, representatives from the faculty unions, key staff or managers in the areas of health services, student services and support, and really to analyze what information do we have today, what are the next critical steps we must take, and do we have any gaps? And so working together, we quickly devised a plan, and then we continued to meet. We to this day have a task force. Now its focus is on reviewing our operations and practices and preparing for a safe return to campus in stages. But too many people to narrow it to one. Just wonderful contributions from managers, from classified professionals and faculty at the college.
When you go over towards August, now I'm used to being here on staff, going to convocation, being able to see you and your colleagues, and also some really successful students and faculty members and staff who were honored during convocation. We're used to seeing that in person, having that ability to look up on the stage and say, oh wow, there's an example of something that's going on here at Fullerton College that we want to highlight. Looking at the online convocation, you and your office and also everyone who was involved still were able to convey that sense of, wow, this is something that we can highlight, even though it was online.
Yeah, that's what we tried to do. Big thanks to our campus communications team. Every year, even in the traditional sense, they work really hard behind the scenes and on scene with our theater arts staff, our technical staff, to make it all happen. And when we saw the prospect of, okay, convocation's not going to be like it typically is, we're going to need to operate in a remote environment, they went right to work and with many contributors. And one of the big goals we had is we wanted to share relevant information at that time, because it's so rare to have everyone together on one call or traditionally in the same building. But also to, as best we could, create a sense of community. And it's not easy to do in a Zoom environment, but it's something that's really important to all of us. And when I talk to others, that's the one thing most of all that we miss. And everybody understands, as I do, why we're in this remote status. We're going to continue to place the safety first. That's what we should do. But boy, is it hard. Like when it's safe to return to campus, I mean, so many of us talk about that's what we miss, that sense of community, like being in person. It's one of the greatest joys you get from working in education and at Fullerton College is we get to see each other right on the quad or near the radio station in classrooms. I with support from the faculty and staff, do a lot of visiting on campus. Sometimes I have my dressy Vans, but tennis shoes, right? Because I love visiting classes. It keeps me in touch with our faculty, staff, and students. And we're just not able to do that the same now. So yeah, but big thank you to Lisa McFerrin, Melissa Serrato, Jasmine Zuniga, Carolyn Walchel, Summer Marcourt, the whole team in campus communications, and the other presenters we had, because we wanted to present some updates, highlights, and kind of things that we thought would be really important and timely for the campus community to stay up to speed on.
And going off what you were talking about, normally here on campus, like you mentioned, you have those dress tennis shoes on. You have the ability to go up to different students and learn about them, talk to them, relate to them, maybe some faculty members and staff as well. How are you able to continue that during this online status?
Well, I have made some class visits via Zoom. And one of the things that I always share with the faculty and staff in each department, I visit the department and division meetings every semester the Friday before school starts. Try to do it more if I can. But when we do that, I always say, as you begin the semester, and I view it as your classroom space, I want you to know that if it's okay with you, I'd love to stop by. Now, normally that means glancing through a window and a faculty member will wave me and say, oh, good, you're here, come on in, it's a perfect time. Or sometimes they're taking a test, but we'll talk them off to the side. But in the Zoom environment, I received several email invitations. Said, hey, Dr. Schultz, my class is meeting synchronously on these days at these times. Here's our Zoom address. If you could stop in, we'd love to say hi. And so I've been able to do that in the Zoom environment as well.
Now, when you look at the Zoom environment, like you were mentioning, you see all of these students and how they're able to adapt to a new way of learning, being online, being at home. Have you noticed anything that has been different in the environment in terms of more of a positive aspect, whether it be students having more flexibility to be able to attend different classes, or et cetera?
The resilience has been inspiring. At a time when so many families and students are facing challenges, to be witness to the resilience that they demonstrate is inspiring. It's very motivating to all of us. And it's also motivating to me to see us, our colleagues, how they look out for each other, look out for the students. I have hope for this whole situation. We'll get through this. So will our college. And we're going to get back on our beautiful campus someday when it's safe to do so. Until then, I continue to encourage others and encourage and thank other colleagues for looking out for their own health and well-being, self-care, as we call it, but also checking in on each other. One of the things about us is our faculty and staff and students, they're really good at looking out for each other. Sometimes they do that so well that they forget to look out for themselves, and so if as a Fullerton College family we're checking in on each other, we want to be respectful of someone's space, right? But just say, hey, how are you doing? How have you been? How are you coping with all this? That really helps. And so I see that a lot, and it makes me so proud, and I encourage the members of our FC family to continue to do that, to keep hope and to check in on one another, and to do whatever we can to support our students through this.
Now, you mentioned doing whatever you can to support the students. Just a few weeks ago, you had not open class hours, but open office hours, so that anyone could really get an opportunity to be more personal with you, whether it be about campus or other topics.
Sure. Yes, I learned a lot from those experiences. Sometimes a student will stop in to share some good news. I just applied to transfer to this particular university. I'm excited. I got great support from the transfer center. Sometimes folks will come to me and say, hey, I'm not sure what to do about this, but this is a concern I have about my experience at the college or my class or this department. Can you help? And I sure can. If I don't know the answer, I know people who do. And we have a great team, and so we work together. In fact, despite our efforts to try to think of all the things that our students will need and to provide them, a number of the things that we've done have been a result of students reaching out to me or to our team to say, what would really help us is this. Is the college, does the college currently have plans to offer a library, pick-up return service, to offer health support in different ways? And so it's a great opportunity for us to learn from the students' eyes, how is the Fullerton College experience? What do you like about it? What could be better?
When you mention that, you look at how different students have different needs, they have different values, they have different timelines that they need to follow as well. How do you cater to the needs of students and then also look at just how diverse everyone is and still cater to that?
Well, how do we do? By listening, but we use surveys as well. We learn a lot from surveys, and we've had pretty good response rates, which I'm really thankful for. Right now there's a survey, and it's in partnership with Temple University. Our college has done it before, but it's called the Real College Survey, and what it gets at is it tries to understand from a student's point of view, what are the challenges that our students face today, especially with basic needs, things like food, access to food, possibly computers or Wi-Fi, housing. And so by confidentially collecting that information, we can get a really good understanding and data on like what percentage of our current students this fall have experienced food insecurity, housing insecurity, and to what degree. So we're really eager to learn from that. We had the survey done in a previous year. It was very helpful to us. It's one of the things that led us to establish a partnership with Pathways of Hope, on top of the wonderful campus food bank that was started years ago, with help from Chris Lamb, Adele Lopez, Tony Dubois. God bless them for the work that they did to start this wonderful resource on our campus, and it's grown, and now in partnership with Pathways of Hope and Sodexo, the food service provider. You know, campus is closed, it's a very difficult situation for them, but they said, hey, we're here to help, we're your partner, how can we help? So now we have the weekly Healthy Hornets food distribution, and you know, since April, we've had over 8,000 visits, over 8,000. Typically between 250 to 350 each week.
Wow.
So it's open to all students.
And you look at that and just seeing it go from maybe a thought to maybe a couple emails, maybe something written, and then all of a sudden you see that impact that it has with in-student or with in-person students who have the need and who are able to go over there. Does it kind of give you that sense of pride knowing that, hey, you know, we were able to take a concept and put it into practice, and now it's helping people?
It does, especially because our faculty, our staff are often the innovators. And they'll bring things to me, like based on their direct interactions with students. Even as I have those interactions, right? They say, you know what, Dr. Schultz, I think we need to do something about this. A lot of students in my class, or a lot of students who visited my departments, say that this concern has been really challenging for them. Is there anything our college can do? And that has also helped to lead to a number of innovations or things we've put into place. You know, one of the things that may seem obvious, but we were faced with right away is the lack of technology. You know, when you talk about pivoting the college with about 21,000 students online in a matter of 3 days, there's all of the effort and the hard work that the faculty and staff of Fullerton College put into that. And the students as well, they're like, whoa, this is going to be different. This isn't what I signed up for. Then we learn, you know, not everybody has a laptop. Most do not. If they're lucky, they have a phone. But it's hard to learn on a phone. So just as soon as we could get orders on hand, and we placed orders, guess what? So was every other high school and college in the country. They had the same issue. So there were some supply logistics challenges, but we still, you know, we put in orders for laptops. We designed a system to establish who needs a laptop, who does not have reliable access to Wi-Fi. It led to opening up one of our parking lots as a free Wi-Fi zone, even though the campus is closed. That's Lot 4 near Sherbeck Field. Mm-hmm. Since that time, we've ordered hotspot technology to boost Wi-Fi. And more recently, again informed by students, we ordered some headsets, some noise reduction headsets to help for the reality that many of our students are facing. They're not the only learner in the household. They may have siblings or parents or children who are learning even as they're trying to learn at Fullerton College. And so we placed an order for noise reduction headphones. We're distributing those to students.
Now, do you see, I mean, being a former student myself, you were a student as well.
Yes.
Do you see students when they get that opportunity to have that laptop, to have those noise canceling headphones, do you kind of see a little bit of relief? Oh my goodness, I have the opportunity to, in this trying time, still be able to go out and get that education, get that opportunity to better myself and advance forward.
Yeah, we do see that, and our faculty see that directly. Many of our staff, based on their roles, get to experience that feedback. And it's rewarding because we've seen it, like so many families and individuals struggle. And then the pandemic came. So it added a whole nother element. And the thing we understand as well is there's California, there's the region, and then there's the county, right? And so we're located in North Orange County. We proudly serve students from all over the region. A little over half of the students do come from the cities in North Orange County, which means a little less than half come from somewhere other than North Orange County, which is amazing. And something about our population, though, that the single highest cities in terms of the number of residents that attend Fullerton College are the city of Anaheim and the city of Fullerton. And based on the public health information from Orange County, the two cities with the highest number of COVID cases that have the greatest amount of struggle are the city of Anaheim and Santa Ana. And they're our neighbors. And so in many ways, our college and our student population is disproportionately impacted by this COVID pandemic. Fullerton, La Habra, also among the cities with the highest rate of COVID-19. So I know we know that, and we know our local high school districts are experiencing that. So with that in mind, we're really designing ways to operate the college that are the most conservative, the ones with the most safety practices. Again, when it's safe to do so, we can't wait to come back in phases, but we're exercising a lot of caution. And we do have face-to-face classes, by the way, but it's about 2% of the classes. About 98% are online remote. And the cases that are here, they were approved for on campus after a safety plan was established and reviewed that aligns with our local and state public health guidelines. In athletics, we just welcomed some of the conditioning courses back to campus. They did a really good job of developing for a detailed plan, and there's some guidance available from the 3C2A, the Athletic Trainers Association, put some guidelines into place, and on our campus, colleagues like Lorena Tarnay, Juan Cuevas, have done an excellent job of working closely with the faculty and staff and the dean, athletic director, to ensure a safe return to campus. Then we had the fires, so the air quality put that on hold for the time being, because all of these classes are held outdoors for safety reasons. But yeah, it just reminds me, I'm just so proud of the faculty and staff and students of Fullerton College. We're resilient, and there's lots of learning occurring. It's just different than we normally do it.
Now, just moments ago, you were talking about the eventual return to campus, and you look at campus undergoing a little bit of changes, especially with that new building that's going up just beyond the baseball field. What are some of the updates that are coming over from that new construction work?
Well, first of all, it's going really well, and most of my work is done from my home office. Today I'm on campus. When I come on campus, like everyone else, I wear a mask. I observe distancing, and I still come down to sign some certificates and things. And so whenever I'm on campus, I go from behind the fence and view the progress, and I get reports too. It's going really well. It's scheduled at this point to be completed early in the fall. So that would seem to indicate that by no later than the spring of 2022, not this one, but the following, it'd be ready for move-in. So that's a huge project, and one of the things about the project, we were excited about it, but we recognized the disruption that it would have on normal campus life for traffic flow, for foot traffic flow, for sound. And one thing is, it's not bothering too many people now. In fact, I even talked with a couple of our neighbors and just checked in with them, and one time they said, hey, it was a little loud early in the morning, so we checked into it, and turns out the high school is doing construction too. So between the two of us, we're trying to be good neighbors. But that's the big one. Sherbet Field, it's in the planning stages too. That project is moving along. We're not at construction yet, but we're in the early stages of the planning and materials acquisition. So that project is in place. And then if you've been on campus, you may have noticed at times different maintenance related, scheduled maintenance projects. It was on our list of things to do, and boy, there's never been a better time to do it, because again, minimal impact to the flow of foot traffic and sound and things. Let's just get it done. We've budgeted for these projects, let's get them done one by one, so that when we can welcome folks back to campus, we have a lot of project improvements that have been done. couple things on the horizon too, is the 300 and the 500 building. So what we know is business and the current home to humanities, and other film, tech and engineering, photography, veterans center. Those are going to be remodeled. So that will be coming up after the instructional building is done. That's one of the next projects on the queue, so we're looking forward to that.
Now, noticing that you have so many different projects going on here on campus, like you mentioned, doesn't have the same impact to students who are on campus at the time. Is there any opportunity for you to kind of look around and say, okay, the campus that I ended up going to as a student is constantly evolving, constantly changing, and it feels like it's growing up before your eyes?
I almost have to stop and think, but I have thought of that a couple of times. While it's happening, our mind is so much about operating the college and making sure our students have a premier experience, but when we stop to think about it, and I have in the closure, it's like, whoa, the building is really coming along. We're kind of in the beginning of a phase of building that's probably the busiest since the days of President Dr. Hodge, and when Dr. Verdian was here as well, who preceded my tenure as president. There were some projects that were in process and then were completed early in his tenure, but that was about maybe 2011, 2012, 2013. I'm thinking of tech and engineering and the 700 and 900 buildings, which I believe were completed in 2013. Since that time, there was really sort of a little bit of break in planning. And then there's always a couple of years of planning before the first sequence of projects. But now we're entering a period where we're going to be taking on project after project after project. So for over a decade.
Now, when you mention that, a lot of people kind of look at different projects and they go, oh, well, that just happened recently. Sometimes you'll be driving down the street and you go, that building wasn't there maybe 2-3 weeks ago when I was here.
Yeah.
They don't notice how long it takes or how much planning, and like you also mentioned with Sherbeck Field, you have to acquire different materials, you have to plan it out, you have to make sure that it follows different guidelines. When you look at how long it takes to go from a thought into a process, into planning, into completion, does it kind of give you that sense of not only pride, but also, oh wow, I remember when this was just kind of a blip on the radar, but all of a sudden it's here in front of me?
Yeah, and we're seeing that right now with the instructional building. I remember when what we call the building user group, a collection of our facilities managers and experts working with classified staff representatives, the dean, a faculty from that division, were getting together to review the needs of the building, then to work with the design build architectural firm to program and then to receive architectural renderings of, based on what we here's the design. And then to go through that process of feedback and review, to fast forward to the groundbreaking ceremony, which was, that was less than a year ago. We were just out in the parking lot over there by the 1400 building and baseball field. So that was February, and then of course construction has really progressed well.
Now, when you look at Fullerton College, also here on campus, normally what we're used to is having the ability to look at a play or go watch a play, maybe a concert as well.
Yes.
Fullerton College hasn't said, you know what, we're just going to put that on hold completely. Recently, you had a jazz concert that ended up going online. When you see that a department has that opportunity and they're still able to get a really well thought out concert that is attended as well online, what does it make you feel as the college president?
It's neat, and it serves as a reminder to the campus community of some of the things that we love about the college, and the community's reminded too. And with those things, we have a very cautious approach. So in this stage, we will work with faculty or staff who have an idea, who said, I want to know if we might be able to do this performance or this activity. So we're not directing anyone to the campus who may not be comfortable coming to the campus. We're sensitive to the fact that with this COVID-19 pandemic, as we've learned from science and public health, based on age and maybe other conditions, we could have community members at higher risk. So we're very sensitive to that. In any case, for those who are willing to share an idea with us, we say, that would be wonderful. Let's talk about the safety protocols we could put into place to protect any participants. And so there it took the form of, we can easily manage distance. You know, the audience will be a virtual audience, and with technology, it was wonderful. We got a wonderful performance. So, yeah, when we can do those things in the future, we'd like to do them. It's not surprising, but it's sad that because of this pandemic, you know, a couple of areas of our college who have great tradition and history include theater arts, music arts, fine arts, and athletics. And along with tech and engineering, those are about the most difficult things to replicate online. You know, there's something about the in-person experience. And we're not the only college who's experienced this, but it's hard because we have a wonderful tradition in the fine arts and in athletics, and for the most part, that's all had to be put on hold for the time being. And so we've seen the enrollments adjust a little bit because of that in the areas. But we'll get back to it someday. We're just taking it a semester at a time and want to ensure safe practices.
When you look at how Fullerton College is going through in the future, is there any way that people, either in the community, be it around campus or students, faculty, staff, is there any way that they can get involved and say, you know what, I want to help with this, I want to be involved, I want to really get a sense of community? Is there any way that they can kind of be involved with that?
Absolutely. It's a little bit more challenging now, but we have volunteers. First example that comes to mind is our Healthy Hornets drive-thru. And so that in normal times is something we always welcome volunteers along with Pathways of Hope, and community members can get involved either by donating food or even to take what's already in place and help distribute it. So that's a good example. We have volunteers who support the library as well. So it's a little bit easier when things open up, because we're also looking out for community member safety. You know, for anyone who's working the Healthy Hornets food line, and you may have seen this, but it's certainly a fact that the distribution is set up in a way where there's distancing. We have the students who visit remain in their cars. They just pop the trunk, and the volunteers can put it in the back of the car or the trunk for them. And it's a wonderful system. Everyone's wearing a mask, maintaining distance, and so we're doing everything we can do to keep things safe.
Is there any message that you would give to the students and faculty and staff about the upcoming months that we have here in terms of how they can just keep staying positive and make sure that Fullerton College keeps progressing as well as it has?
Yeah, well, 3 words I think about and I share are better days ahead. And I try to approach each day as something good's about to happen today. You know, so it's just to encourage each other to recognize that this is challenging, and they're doing a phenomenal job in a challenging environment. You know, we're 108 years old almost, 107 as a college. This has never happened to us, certainly to this degree at Fullerton College. So this is the first. And we're surviving and we're thriving. And it's not without challenge, including our students, but they're resilient. We're proud of them, and we still have close to 21,000 students enrolled at Fullerton College right now, and still having students complete certificates, transition to the workforce, transfer. So a lot of good things. But you know, what I often point to is better days ahead, meaning let's keep doing what we do best, and we will get a chance when it's safe to phase back in and return things to campus. But we're just doing what we need to do. And frankly, in the California community college system, that's what the colleges are doing in the CSU system. And my good friend, Dr. Fran Vergy, president at Cal State University Fullerton, they're working hard to keep everybody safe. Similar situation. They have a limited number of in-person labs, like us, often the technical areas, the science labs, but mostly online learning. So especially in California, and we see this across the country, but most of the colleges and universities are in a remote or online environment for the time being.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Schultz. We appreciate you joining us. Once again,
Thank you.
our guest has been Dr. Greg Schultz, president of Fullerton College. I am Ryan Osborne, thanking you for joining us right here on 90.1 KBPK.
All right, this is 90.1 KBPK. I am Joseph Pavlenko, and today we have Dr. Joanna Schilling with us, and we're going to be talking to her about some how Cypress is dealing with a lot of this stuff with COVID and what's going on campus. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me, Joseph.
All right. So you are, for anybody that doesn't know at home, you are the president of Cypress College, dealing with all that fun stuff over there. And we know COVID's been kind of a major thing that's happened this year.
Yes, it is.
Right. And we've mostly focused on a lot of the negative things, how it's affected the campus, how it's affected people's work and that kind of stuff. What are some of the positive things that you've realized that can be done because we've had a shift into a remote learning world so quickly?
Yes, we're learning a lot of things through this. Obviously, the challenges are keeping our campus connected, both our employees and our students, and feeling engaged with the work that we're doing. But I think some of the unexpected surprises is using technology to be a little bit more efficient, more focused. I'm finding that in our meetings, we start on time and we end on time, which didn't always happen in person. And I think everyone welcomes that. And we probably will continue doing some kind of virtual formats in some of our shared governance meetings, for example, because a lot of people have to travel to the campus just for that meeting, faculty specifically, who might not already be on campus that day. So I think that there are some ways that we can facilitate people's time in a more efficient way. I'm also finding that for professional development activities, they're much more well attended because it's a little bit easier again to sign on. People don't have to commute to get there or even walk from one building to another for a professional development opportunity. So that has been very welcome change and having a little bit more engagement through our use of technology.
That's awesome. So it sounds like a lot of quality of life things or workflow things just we're happening to realize that, hey, we can do this a little better.
Yeah, and it makes us think about how we're delivering information. And even when we're back on campus, there may be some things that we've learned that we had to use a virtual format to deliver information that maybe we can do better even in person when we're back on campus.
Awesome. So in the before times, way back in 2019 or even January of this year, if anybody on your campus or if, me would have just came up to you and was like, do you think all of this learning could be done remotely? Would you have thought it was possible either last year or as early as January of this year?
Probably not. We had about 21% of our courses were taught online before the pandemic. So obviously that was a huge shift to move everything online. And when I say online, there's online classes which are done 24/7, right? A student can log in at any time. And now we have this new term, which is called remote learning, which may happen synchronously, which is at the same time, just like you and I are talking in real time. A lot of our classes are being delivered virtually, but they're still in a lecture format, and students are still in that same space together, even though they're not physically together.
Okay, so we have this kind of two separate terms now. We have online, which is kind of what was being done before, the classes that were just offered and log in when you want, do your homework, just get it done before the due date. And remote is geared more towards, like you said, what we're doing, an instructor talking to students in real time.
Yes, and our instructors, our faculty have been incredibly creative. Through the Zoom format, you can set up breakout sessions. So if you were in a normal classroom and you might get into small groups to talk about a topic or to identify something that the students wanted to work on in a small group and then report out to the classroom, you can still do that within Zoom. You go into breakout sessions, there might be 4 or 5 people in that session, and then you return to the main session where everybody then has that chance to report out what their discussion was. So a lot of those things that happened in the classroom can be duplicated through Zoom. I would not say that it's exactly the same, and certainly that personal human connection that we make when we're in person. So I'm not touting it as the same experience. It's not, but it is possible to have that real-time classroom instruction, even in a virtual format. And that's what we're calling remote learning.
Right. And to steal a phrase, I know the president of our college, Dr. Schultz, likes to say, miss the campus community, right? Being able to actually see people. As somebody who's kind of more introverted, never thought I would say that, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, we miss the hugs, right? We miss that, that smile and that hello and being able to just human connection, break bread together, stop off at each other's office and have a casual conversation. Much of learning and much of communication happens in that way, and that is missed. We can't duplicate that in a virtual environment.
Yeah, definitely. You were talking about Zoom, so a program that I wasn't aware of prior to hearing the word quarantine this year. Would you have, talking about Zoom and that kind of stuff, do you think that's part of what helped us shift to remote learning as quickly as we did? And do you think we could have shifted to remote learning as quickly without something like that potentially?
No, I don't think we could have shifted that quickly. But out of crisis always comes opportunity. And I think that it is incumbent upon us to maximize the innovation that comes out of emergencies and crises. No one ever wishes for that to happen. And certainly with this pandemic and all of the things that we are all suffering through, I would never say this was a good thing, but necessity is the mother of innovation, right? And we learn new things when we're forced to learn new things. And I think that's what the pandemic has done, is it's put us into a mode where we have to adapt and we have to learn. And some of those things that we've learned and adapted to will remain once once the pandemic is over and we are able to come back to campus. I think there will be a new, different way that we deliver information and that we engage with one another.
Right. Kind of this post-COVID Brave New World thing almost.
Yes.
Talking about Zoom and all of this stuff. Sorry. Not that there's a best time for this to happen, because having it never happen would have been preferably. But we talked about without Zoom, maybe this wouldn't have been possible. And that it happened now. I know when I was a student 5-6 years ago at Fullerton College, I don't know if this would have been able to be done. So I'm just, as somebody that's in administration, running a college, again, not that we're lucky, but are we lucky that it happened right now versus maybe a couple years ago?
Well, I think definitely we had technology in place that we could immediately turn to that we wouldn't have had 5 or 10 years ago. That is absolutely for sure. And although I wish I had bought stock in Zoom, Zoom was a company, Zoom was a thing, right? I don't know who was using it. It wasn't me. And now it's part of our vernacular. It's part of the language. Everybody knows what that means. So I think that we're certainly more equipped to have adapted to this because of the technology that we have available. And I think our students were more equipped to adapt to this because they are used to the virtual environment in so many other ways. So you were in college 5 years ago. I was in college much longer than that. And we were just getting used to having computer centers. I'm really dating myself, but that was in the 80s. And that was a new thing. We didn't even have email. So that is definitely something that has helped us through this particular crisis that honestly, I'm not sure what we would have done. We probably would have done something different. We would have figured it out, but it certainly wouldn't have been able to be the kind of speedy technology that we have now. And all of the fifth generation networking that allows us to do this and gives us the bandwidth to be able to do it.
Yeah. You were saying Zoom's become part of the vernacular. And I think when people talk video conferencing, I think FaceTime used to be a word people used just for any kind of video chat like what we're doing right now. And before that, it was Skype. And I think now the default term is Zoom. Like Zoom has become the Kleenex almost, to kind of say it that way, if that makes sense.
Or the Xerox or right. The Scotch tape.
Yeah. And you mentioned networking when you were talking about, you said fifth generation networking, I think is what you said. Mm-hmm. I went to the Cypress site to get a little prep for this, and I saw that it's on a first come, first serve basis. I can't talk today. And it's for students registered with Cypress College. But you have a Wi-Fi available in your lots. I mean, it's on the weekdays, and it's basically business hours, around 7:30 or 8 a.m. till I think it's 10 p.m. Mondays through Thursdays, ending at 5 on Fridays. Are there any other programs you have on campus, like the Drive Up Wi-Fi program, that were created to assist students during this time?
Yes. And so what you're referring to, actually, we launched that in the spring semester and the summer when we first were adapting to this new normal that we're living in. As of just the beginning of September, we also now have an open study space on campus. So for students can still come to our Lot 1 Drive Up and access our Wi-Fi for free. Now they can also come on campus. They have to make an appointment, but we have an open air tent, much like what you see in restaurants, where there are socially distanced tables. We have plexiglass between stations, and it's open air, so it's as safe as possible. And students can come and utilize that during the same hours that you just mentioned. So that's even a newer adaptation from the Drive Up Wi-Fi. We also have a very comprehensive virtual counter, student service counter. So a student will access it through our Cranium Cafe system. And we had been using Cranium Cafe for online counseling for quite a while, but now all of our student services have virtual counters. So literally a student can knock on a door. It's actually looks like a door, and you go onto the web and you access that door, and you can see the green light means that person behind the door is available, and you can go in and have a conference with them. The red light means they're not available, and then the yellow light means you can make an appointment and or wait. So all of our admissions and records, all of our counselors, our DSS services, everyone that you would normally access in person in our student service area, you can do online through that virtual counter.
That's amazing. Like
it is actually.
Right. We're in the future. So we've been talking about this. One thing, I know at Fullerton, they're doing a bunch of construction, which is kind of, I think it's just get it done while the campus is empty. I've heard Cypress has some stuff going on, again, not that there's a COVID is positive, but because COVID, have you been able to make progress on some construction on your campus that maybe you wouldn't have been able to if you had students during the spring and the summer and the fall?
Yes, that's a great question. So first of all, we have our large construction projects, which are, we have a new Veterans Resource Center that was started last year and will be completed actually by the end of this semester. We originally had planned to have a ground opening in January. We will probably be doing some small tours of the new center, socially distanced and by appointment only, but we'll have to delay the opening. So that is almost ready to go, and it's beautiful. We have a new bridge and tribute garden to our armed services on our back area by our pond, and we also have a new science, engineering, math building that's going up. So that construction has continued. Whether we had students or not, but it's a little bit safer, and we can, because the campus was torn up, it's a little bit easier now to do this without inconveniencing students who are trying to get to and from different buildings on campus. We're also doing construction inside the buildings. And that does allow us to speed that up a little bit and be a little more ambitious, because we're not in the way of our usual business practices. Obviously, again, the trade-off is we don't have students on campus, which we would really like to have them on campus, but we are trying to get some things done so that when we are back on campus, everyone's going to come back and see an amazing transformation, both outside and inside our buildings.
That's awesome to hear. Like I've been trying to say, our whole conversation, I'm trying to find as many positive things about this because it's been such a bummer. And everybody's been, I know me personally, I miss going to my office. I never thought I'd say it. I miss commuting. I miss spending an hour and a half on the 91 every morning. But it's great that we have these kind of positive takeaways that are happening, and students are going to have these remodeled, new construction, new buildings, all this kind of stuff on campus.
Yeah, and if I can mention another thing, Joseph, so our commencement this year was virtual. That was a really hard decision to make, and I know at first some students, when we announced we were going to have a virtual commencement, they were really upset about it. But we promised them it was going to be amazing, and in many ways, what we were able to do with our students virtually is we could create a real profile and focus on each and every student. So even though it doesn't replace the the on ground and being in person commencement, what we will keep for future is to be able to showcase each student, their degree, what it is that they're planning on doing afterwards. Each student filled out a profile, and they had their own picture and a profile about them online, and it came up as their name was announced. And we will probably continue to do that even when it's live, because as students walk across the stage, their family members get to cheer for them, but they're a little figure on that big gigantic stage, and it's really hard for everybody else to see just how unique that student really is. So we really hope that we'll be able to continue having that very special profile, because every single student has accomplished a tremendous amount by the time that they walk across that stage, and we want to honor every single student.
That's awesome. Just kind of led into my next question. I was going to ask you about any other positive takeaways that have happened because we're in this quarantine COVID-19 world. You kind of just answered my question without me answering it or asking it. And I think we're getting a little close to time. So I'll let you plug anything, I guess, for lack of a better term. If there's anything you'd like to let your students, staff, or just the people at home know what's going on at Cypress, what can they look forward to, any awesome construction projects you maybe haven't mentioned, fine arts, theater, anything that you want to bring up before we go?
Well, that leaves it pretty wide open. So I could probably talk longer than you want me to on that. But I think that maybe the message that I would like to send to our students and our employees is that just to hang in there with us and to know that you are not forgotten, that we are spending every single day thinking of ways that we can connect with you, that we can make sure that you know that not only is your education the most important thing to us, but that we are still there and here for you and supporting you. And I think that right now there's in this isolating period, it feels very unclear what the future will be. I think that what has happened in the last year has shown us that we have a great ability to adapt to the future and make it the future that we want it to be. And I really believe that will be the same for education. So, and that if students need us, we're still here through our virtual counters, through our website, through responding to surveys that we send out, to checking our social media. And if any student has any kind of question, they're free to reach out to me directly or anybody on campus, because we want to be able to keep our students close and make sure that they know that we take this journey together. We say at Cypress that that is the most important thing. And we, meaning all of us in the community, we are taking this journey together. And right now the journey is a little bumpy, but we are in it together. And we need to remember that.
That's great. Thank you so much. I've been talking to Dr. Joanna Schilling today. I had the pleasure. Thank you for making time, giving your time to us and letting us do this interview and having this chat. I've been Joseph Pavlenko for 90.1 KBPK.
Welcome back here to 90.1 KBPK. Joe, just a few moments ago, you were able to talk to the president of Cypress College. And earlier, we also saw Greg Schultz, the president of Fullerton College. That uplifting aspect is something huge. And considering that we're coming up on, a holiday in Thanksgiving here in the United States, there's a lot to be thankful for.
Yeah, definitely. Couple things I'm thankful for. One is the administrators that gave us their time to be able to talk to us was really amazing. Hearing their take on a lot of things going on the campuses. I know talking to Joanna Schilling, I got to hear a lot about things that they're able to get done. Yeah, it sucks students aren't on campus right now, but the silver lining is there's a lot of things they're able to get done, a lot of construction, a lot of improvements, so that way when students can come back to campus, they'll have better facilities, nicer campuses, and a lot of the remodels that were maybe going to take a little bit longer without students on campus, they're able to kind of plow through, get things done, which is really kind of awesome. And I'm sure the administrators at Cypress are thankful that something sounds weird, but I'm sure they're thankful that they're being able to get it done, not thankful for the circumstances that it's happening because of, but that the progress upgrading campuses is able to be made.
And in saying that, Mark, that was something that Greg Schultz also highlighted. The fact that since there are no students on campus, they don't have to necessarily disrupt the study time of the students. So it's effective in that the students still get the opportunity to learn, and they're still having facilities built for them that are going to further their education.
Well, you look at the future of what they're doing at Cypress and Fullerton College, and they're becoming updated and modern with the rest of the world. I mean, the science technology building over at Cypress is outrageous. You still have places too, guys, like the Veteran Center that's going to be there. And then when you look at what's happening here at Fullerton College, yeah, the old setting of old Spanish buildings, but the modern technology that's coming here is wonderful for all the students. So if you look at that with Thanksgiving around the corner, as a student you need to be grateful of what you're going to get offered, and all of us here need to be grateful because of the friendships that we have gained through the years here at Fullerton College. They continue to grow. I'm going to throw in that old saying, once a hornet, always a hornet. Well, that's true. I mean, the people that we love, you two gentlemen that I care deeply about, of course, Corey and Gabby Nalen, who I care about, and everybody that I've met. Of course, you guys know, I don't know a stranger. So it's the positive feel that we've got going. You talked to both presidents of colleges. You couldn't have better leadership. And you should be grateful out there. If you're a student, be grateful that you have leaders like you've got at your colleges and have people like the two gentlemen on my left that love working here at Fullerton College. That's the best gift you can have in this holiday season.
So we thank you once again for joining us here as we talk to President of Fullerton College, Greg Schultz, President of Cypress College, Joanna Schilling. For Joseph Pavlenko, Mark Pavlovich, I am Ryan Osborne, thanking you for watching 90.1 KBPK.